Hey, alright, I'm back with a follow-up on the Speedmaster TDS rear end stuff. Um, Now, right here is the TDS aluminum center housing and the bolt-on axle tube. Now, what I did find out after I bought these is even though they look like they're a bolt-on tube, they are in fact a press-in axle tube. And your standard, 48 inch, 60 inch press is just not going to be tall enough to do this. So in my position where I'm at out here in the middle of cow country, the nearest decent machine shops are an hour, hour and a half, and even some of them didn't even have a press big enough. So I was looking at having to send this to like Curry or someplace like that. And that's where all of us car guys come into our ingenuity. I actually set this each side in front of the old torpedo heater there for about 45 minutes. Now, this axle tube fell right in, bolted right up, no tools needed. This side only went in about a half an inch and stopped. So I had to come up with a tool to run that tube into that interference fit. So went and got some 3/4 rod, 48 inch or 36 inch piece, a nut, a 1-inch washer, a 7/8 washer. And this plate is nothing more than just a leaf spring plate for a 1,500-pound trailer axle. That's all that is. And we drilled the hole on that to 7/8 or 1 inch. And we set this in here just like that. You can see how that kind of just like fits the curvature of that housing almost perfectly. And then on the other end we did the same exact setup, except this end over here is heavily greased with some wolf's head bearing grease. And we heated it up, took the old pipe wrench over there and half a turn at a time, and it just slowly pressed that tube right on in there with no issues whatsoever. It just went right on in. So that's the information on this housing. You can put these tubes in at home with almost nothing for special tools, and you can make an installer or whatever you want to call that tool. But now I have a tool that I've used one time that I'll probably never use again, but that's okay. I just add it to the collection like we always do with our tools. You never know. 3 or 4 years from now, somebody will say, hey, I need to do an axle tube. Okay, bring it over, we'll do it. Got a tool that works. So, and it didn't mar up the threads or anything. I mean, so it just happened to work. So the housing's together, no issues. It looks good. I did make sure I put now this does have an O-ring on each tube that sits into a recess. You got to make sure you don't melt that. So when this is hot and you're getting ready to put that in, be quick about it. This side we wasn't able to be so quick, but it wasn't hot enough to where it was damaging the O-ring, so we kind of kept an eye on that and just put it in there. But now that piece, don't you like that? nice. Now I'm going to go over here through my mess. Nice sunny day here in Tennessee. It's January 5th. About 58 degrees out. Look at that. I don't mind missing winter. Here is the Speedmaster Ford 9-inch. Okay, now this was built with all Speedmaster parts. It's got the extended 1350 yoke, Daytona pinion support, 6061 case. Got a new seal put in it. You still see some of the grease I put on it to put it together. Now, this did go together quite easily, which was kind of, unexpected. I figured, well, it's Speedmaster stuff, Everybody says run, from Speedmaster, but I found their stuff to be pretty user friendly. I mean, I got nothing bad to say about it. This is their new Torque Worm 6-gear 35 spline carrier, which should handle a whole lot of horsepower. It's a 430 gear. It's got, now on the last video on the bearings, we ran the bearings, the part numbers on them, and they're industry standard Timken bearings. So I'm going to say they're pretty good bearings. The preload, I didn't really measure preload so much because that's kind of, I look at that as kind of like a, if it's too much, you'll know it when you try to turn it. I mean, there's going to be a little bit of resistance to it, but just remember, no matter what kind of preload you put on your pinion on these 9 inches, and just about any rear end actually, the first time you hit this thing going down the road, your preload's gone. Okay, the bearings are going to seat in, everything's going to wear real quick, and preload going to be almost. So as long as you've done your stack up right and your torque's right on your pinion, really shouldn't have any trouble out of that. Now, if you're getting like 20, 30 foot-pounds on your pinion, there's obviously something wrong. But a little bit of drag is your preload, and just kind of you just feel your way through it. And this gear, I've got this gear set at 10 thousandths run out. Now, as you can see on the wear pattern, pretty good. That's about right where you want to be. I mean, it's almost perfect. It's right in the middle of the tooth. It's got a full contact minus about 1/8 from the bottom. That's pretty good. That's right where you pretty much want to be. Now, a lot of people say, well, you should start with 0 shims and go from there. Well, you know what? I don't believe in that. I mean, typically these aluminum housings, from what I'm gathering, from everything I've read and all the videos I've watched, 35 to 45 is where you want to start shims. So I started this one at 41 thousandths on the shims for the Daytona, for the pinion support, which is gonna either move my pattern in or out. Okay. I went with 41 I like where it's at. It's right in the middle of the tooth. It's a good contact pattern. 41 was good. That's where I'm leaving it. And I went to set the end play on the bearings. Now, as far as these preload nuts on the bearings, on eBay, there's a guy selling these things. It's a clutch spanner tool, and lo and behold, look at that. It fits the 9-inch like a glove. I mean, I'm trying to do this with one hand, but there you go. Look at that. Fits right in there, so you can adjust that up. $11. Can you go wrong with $11? I'll probably never use that tool again. But I got it. And of course I got this stand from Jegs. It was like 30 bucks or something silly. And I'm sure I could use it for other things. You know, I can make mounts to go on these mounts to mount something else if I wanted to. I mean, and here in my garage I probably would. I mean, I've got all the tools to do it: TIG welders, MIG welder, plasma cutter. I got all that stuff. So as far as whipping up some mounts or something like that for something, that's pretty easy. I did order one too many bearings, but that's okay. Yeah, only thing left to do now is take this housing, or this center section, and put it into the housing, and then wait till I get the rear frame section and another set of ladder bars. My whole plan with them big ass tires and all this is to build a rear frame section prior to taking this car apart. I want to have the whole frame section mobile, on wheels, ready to go in a car at some point in time, either shortly after I take the car apart or before. Because once I get going in there with a plasma cutter, this is going to come apart pretty quick. And I don't even remember what size those tires were. I mean, we could look. $275 60-15s, and they barely fit. They're still a brand new tire. You can see where they're even kind of hitting, just lightly touching every once in a while, especially when you hit this thing. And they don't stay stuck to the ground for nothing. Was the reason why we're going with those. Those are 16.5 inches wide, 31 inches tall. That should make that gear somewhere in a 3 series gear, 370, something like that. Good streetable gear. Knock it down from a 430 with that 31 on there. And yeah, my garage is a little messy right now. That's what happens in the wintertime. Yeah, but overall, it's coming together. Slowly but surely. We'll have this thing tubbed out. And of course I'll have to add to my roll bar and all that. But I'm really impressed with this axle housing. I mean, I really like it. It's a big tube, really thick tubes. Um, I don't know if this is worth $500. You know, 300. Well, how much was that thing? I want to say this normally is like $400 and then $55 a tube. I think that's what it was. But when I bought it, it was 40% off, so this was $280, and I got both tubes for $55. So, and then I got the aluminum center case, the 9-inch over there, just the case with the Daytona pinion support. I got that for $280. So I saved a bunch of money on buying this when they had their 40% off sale. But one thing I will tell you, because I did find out about Speedmaster. They're good guys to talk to. They will help you out any way they can. There was a couple things missing when it showed up, like there was an O-ring missing and a couple of the bolts. And they turn around and just sent them to me. Didn't charge me for them or nothing. But it does take forever to get your parts. I started this on December 7th. And it took like 3 weeks to get the parts. But you will get them. Just gotta be patient, I guess. Now also on these housings, this bearing in here, the pinion support bearing, now on most 9-inches there's a retaining washer or a retaining plate that goes in there, and on the other side there's 2 screws, one for each one of these holes. This housing does not use the washer or the plate. It just uses the shoulder or the head of the screw that kind of sits halfway over the edge of the bearing on both sides to keep that bearing bottomed out. I did talk to an assembly guy over there for Speedmaster, and he says, well, he normally just puts one in, but you know, obviously if it was engineered for 2 screws, it means you got to put 2 screws in it. So I put the 2 screws in it. You know, I'm not gonna, it's a screw. I mean, why would you skimp on that? You know, just put it in and be done. But yeah, that's what we've done with that one. We just put it in. It's 100% complete. And that's where we're at. Yeah, I was gonna use my cool tool there to do my bearing cap torque, but my batteries were dead in my torque wrench. So, but that's it for that. I don't know when the next video will be or what it'll be on. It'll probably be on the rear frame section. And I think I've opted for the Alston ProLink ladder bar rear suspension. It's 400 and some odd dollars from Summit Racing. My price being prior military, I get a discount. I mean, I can get it for $380. Again, that's a deal. It's a 28-inch wide frame section. And I gotta do some math and figure out that's the right width. But I mean, it really doesn't matter because you can always cut your supports, your side supports that determines your width to any length you want. I mean, to accommodate your tires inside your fenders or your wheel tubs. So if it's got to be 31.5, you can cut that stuff and weld it back together. Ain't a big deal. But I think that's what we're going to do. The only downside about it is I'm going to have to drive to Georgia to the Summit location down there and get it, because after tax and the added truck freight charge, it's like another $200. I can go there and back for way less than half of that. Yeah, it's 4 hours there, 4 hours back, but I spent most of my career when I was working on the highway, so driving is not big a deal for me. Of course, I'm retired now, but I'll probably just drive down there and pick it up. I'll steal my son's Titan. He won't matter. He won't mind. Make him drive. But that's what we're probably gonna do the video on next, is the rear frame section. And I'll do some math and make sure that's what it's gonna fit. But like I said, it really doesn't matter. We can cut it to fit. It's, quote, trim to fit for your application. So, you know, all this has got to come out. We got to redo all this. The trunk will probably be pinned on. You know, I don't know how sturdy that'll be if we cut the lower supports off of that and leave the hinge, because that's coming out. The wheel tub there's coming out. That's all coming out. Most of this is all coming out. Never done it before, but it'll be interesting. Shouldn't be that hard. I can measuring tape, so we should be able to figure it out. But that's about it for this video. Like I said, the next video will probably be on the frame section. And if there's any questions on the center section there you want me to answer, just let me know. I will be putting a post up on 460ford.com. There's a lot of good information there on that forum, especially, you know, with the 385 series engine. There's a lot of guys on there that'll give you any information you ever wanted. It's just a wealth of information there. Great website. But until next time, be safe, and we'll go to the next step. Thanks for watching.